Hey, everyone. Welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. We've got a really great guest on today, but before we go there, today's episode is brought to you by Death Conversation Game. It's a really great game by Angela Fama that encourages ordinary conversations around death. Get your copy at deathconversationgame.com. So today's guest is a curious human who helps other curious humans connect their creative right brains, technical left brains, and entrepreneurial hearts. Please join me in welcoming Diana Varma. Welcome.
Thank you, Thomas. It's great to be here.
Are you ready for 20 questions?
Oh my goodness, I guess. I'm
Great.
usually on the other side. It's it's easier on the other side.
Nice. Question one, tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what you read there is exactly right. I see myself as a curious human. I used to try and box myself in and label myself much more than I think I do now. So I am a design educator. I'm a podcaster. I'm a mom. I'm a dog mom. I'm all the things. But really, it's in by day, it's design education and figuring out how to reimagine some of the classroom, the world of the classroom that I was brought up in, and perhaps you were too, and trying to reimagine that for a new world, as it were.
Great. And just to note for our audience, if you're interested in other podcaster episodes, check out the episode with Debbie Millman. She was an early supporter of the show. So question two, what's the key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
Yeah. I think the key piece of knowledge is that none of this has to be taken terribly seriously. I think that so much in the world of design and of education, we're in such a privileged position to be able to be world builders. And the key piece there is, again, the idea of play, the idea of kind of unseriousness. And that's not to mean that I'm kind of uh, not being serious with the craft, as it were, but that we can kind of have fun and work within the constraints of the worlds that we're in. That's what makes me different. Play.
Great, I love it. So question three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
Mm. It's what I have always known. it's it's the only thing I know, which is teaching, which is education, which is helping others figure out what they love and how they can bring their unique selves to the world. Just a quick story. I have very cringeworthy videos of of myself as a child, home movies that I'm the very bossy older cousin, as it were. And I think a lot of that was me wanting to be a teacher and wanting to help others from a very early age. I moved into a role as a swimming instructor when I was old enough, and then moved into the roles, various roles of teaching assistant. I opened up a small business where I was doing teaching and training in the health and safety industry. So teaching has always just been this kind of thread that's woven throughout my career.
Great. Some people struggle with number four, but the question is, what does your future look like?
I have no idea, and I don't think I would want to know if someone had an answer for me. I think that that would the mystery is part of the fun. Figuring out what's next is part of the fun. I was speaking with another creative colleague of mine a little while ago, and he was asking me about goal setting. And I said, well, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with goals because I think in many ways goals are limiting. I mean, yes, it's a good idea to kind of think about, okay, here's what I might want to accomplish, or here's generally what I'm thinking about moving forward in the direction I'm moving forward. But I think that having conversations with others and meeting new people and being open to new experiences opens up different doors that perhaps we could not have even known were open or were possible to open previously. So I think for me, the future, I don't know what it looks like, and I don't care to know. And maybe maybe it will change 63 times within the next year and a half. I don't know.
Nice. And five, we say is unique to this show. The question is, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
Now, can I ask you clarify that question? Do you mean place physically, or what are your, yeah, what do you mean?
Yeah, we have different approaches to answering this question. Some people talk about it as a kind of philosophical place or even a digital place. Other people talk about it as that physical location where you're at, which city you're in. So it goes the range, and it's up to you.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll take the former, which is kind of the metaphorical place where I where I am right now. So how does the notion of place play into what you do? I think place for me is really, I think place is always about context. And so, one of the things that comes to mind, again, if we're thinking and talking about teaching and kind of what I do day to day, I think that we're in a really unique place in the space of education. And there's a lot of moving pieces, and there's so much opportunity to rethink what we've done in the past as it relates to assessments and grading and traditional structures and systems that serve a small number of people, perhaps at the top, but don't always serve everyone else. And so I think for me, place and education and today in 2024, these all are really important in helping to drive forward my decision making and reimagining what could be for the future of education.
Great, love that. Okay, number six, if you had to start from the beginning, what advice would you give your former younger self?
Slow the bleep down. I think it's my nature to want to do it all and do it all right now. And I have 17 projects on the go. And I'm very excited about the work that I do. And there's often lots of crossover between play and work for me. So I, I don't know. I mean, the other piece of that is if I had told my former self that and she had slowed down, where would I be right now? I don't know. I don't know. But I think that so often we try to rush to the next thing, the next, um, going back to place, the next place in our lives and wherever that may be, that we often miss some of the really great, incredible things that are happening right in the moment, whether big or small. So for me, it's slow down.
Great. Seven is simple. What's a day in your life like?
Every day is 100% different. So, I mean, I have a teaching schedule that changes from semester to semester, as I'm sure you can appreciate. But yeah, every day is different, and I love that about the work that I do. I love that it's cyclical. I When I worked in my 9 to 5 job, that was one of the most challenging parts for me was there was no kind of beginning or end. It was a pile of paperwork or emails or whatever it was, projects that would I would work through, and then the pile would refill, and it would be that like that day in, day out. And so I think for me, having a distinct beginning, middle, and end of the semester, for example, and I get to restart the cycle 3 times a year is really something that I thrive in. So it's not so much what does a day look like because every day is different, but I think that that kind of cyclical nature of what I do and how I work is my favorite thing.
Great. So eight is around lifelong learning. The question is, lifelong learning is a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
I work with incredible students, and I'm certain you do too. And they keep me up to date. So it's in conversation with them and through kind of providing prompts and different assessments that they're really excited about. And they do beautiful research and they do incredible work that I go, oh, I didn't know that before. And so I think my students, in a lot of ways, keep me up to date. And other ways, I love reading. I love reading nonfiction. I love listening to a handful of my favorite podcasts that really keep my brain sharp and fresh about important topics. So I think it's just this constant inflow of information that I then, my biggest challenge is trying to kind of filter it and keep record of it and figure out a way to kind of catalog it so I can go back and go, oh yeah, I learned X, Y, and Z this semester, and this is what I want to take forward with me.
Great. And tools. Do you use digital and analog tools?
I sure do. I love a notebook. I have a notebook in front of me. It is paper, it is pencil or pen or marker or whatever the heck my children haven't confiscated from my space here and used for their own art projects. And I love a digital calendar. That is my go-to. I share it with my husband, and we are able to run our lives pretty seamlessly with that nice little tool of a digital calendar. I love the Google suite of Google Docs and Sheets and all the rest that my institution has kind of bought into, as it were, and it just makes collaboration so much easier. Yeah, I think there's a time and a place for analog. I think it helps me get ideas out and down in a really nonlinear way. And then I can go into the software and it becomes a lot more streamlined and structured and searchable.
Great. And halfway number 10, how do you deal with work life or life work balance?
Mm. This used to be a really hard one for me, and in a lot of ways it still is, because as I mentioned earlier, work and play, a lot of overlap. I'm very privileged to be in that position. But I think it just comes down to choice and easier said than done. Again, I'm in a very privileged position whereby I can kind of rely on a single job to earn a living, and I don't have to work multiple jobs, and I'm am afforded some free time. So I do my best to make use of that free time. So one thing I do, for example, is probably a year and a half ago, I started to essentially close the laptop on weekends, and I just do not answer emails. And it seems like ludicrous now to me to say this, but it's something that I would have done in past years. Absolutely is, and no offense to anyone who does this by any means, but just for me, it's been life changing to not answer an email on the weekend or to not work on a work project on the weekend and really carve out that time for my family. And it's always still busy, but it's a different kind of busy, and it allows me to take a little bit of a breath from my work. And truthfully, I come back on Monday with new perspectives, a little bit refreshed, and I can then dive back in on Monday.
Great. And 11, if you weren't doing what you do now, what might you be doing?
Teaching still. Teaching in a more traditional sense, maybe. Yeah,
Hmm.
I considered that going to teachers college. I had a bit of a quarter life crisis at one point when I was in my mid 20s, and thought I just need to go back to teachers college. I want to teach grade 4. And then anyway, one thing led to another. I didn't do that, but I think I'd probably be a teacher.
Hmm. What would you not like to do with your career?
What would I not like to do? Oh, 100,000%. I would not like to fly a plane. I would not like to drive a massive transport truck. I would not like to be responsible for a huge thing that travels in time or space or on a road and takes cargo and people. I've often thought that, like, that to me, that is the worst job because there's so much pressure. I mean, I can use Illustrator and I don't know, make a mistake with the pen tool, and lives do not depend on my mistake with the pen tool. But lives absolutely are in the balance if you're in a more high stakes job like that.
Nice. And do you have a favorite word, quote, or sentence?
A favorite word? Oh yeah, I do. Okay, I was thinking about this today. I don't know if it's a favorite. I mean, words are wonderful, and I have so many favorite words. But there's one that came to me today, which is mudita, which is vicarious joy, or essentially it's living vicariously through someone else's success. So it's not about jealousy and seeing someone else thrive and going, oh man, I wish that was me. Oh man, I can't believe that happened to them and not me. It's taking the approach of, wonderful. I am so happy for them, and coming at it from a place of authenticity and really genuine connection. And I think if more of us thought about ways to incorporate mudita in our day to day, our lives would be so much better for it.
Great. And how about a least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
So I like all three of these words, but together they're very, I don't know, very cliche. Live, laugh, love. I think if anyone has that tattooed on themselves, I'm so sorry. They're still beautiful words, but I just think it's the kitschy, like, I don't know, sign in the hallway that live, laugh, love, and this kind of cursive font. It's maybe a little overdone, a little performative. Whereas if we're really living, laughing, loving, I don't necessarily think we need the sign so much.
If you had to pick one word to describe yourself, which word would you choose?
I think it would have to be curious. I think that's what it comes down to. And it took me a while to arrive at that word in life. And as you mentioned at the beginning, that's kind of what I call myself. And you can interpret that whichever way you would like, whether I have curiosity and I'm actively curious about the world, which I am, or curious human being like, oh, a strange human, an interesting human. I'll take either. But that's the word I think I would use to describe myself is curious. And then uh, my subtitle would be passionate, interested, let's do this, something like that.
What keeps you up at night?
I mean, I've got my weighted blanket. I've got my orthopedic, no, I guess not orthopedic, but my fancy schmancy chiropractic pillow. Not a whole lot keeps me up at night, which is a blessing. I would say, you know what, my kids keep me up at night. My daughter was up between 1 and 2 this morning, and I think she had some sort of strange dream, and she woke up crying about us not being able to go to Florida. So so it was a night. But yeah, I mean, not a whole lot, which is a lovely place to be in.
Nice. And what's the dream you're chasing?
I think the dream I'm chasing is connected to the work I did with Domestica about 2 years ago, which is all about creative confidence and how and why we can build our confidence in the creative work that we're doing, even if we're just starting out, even if we feel like our work is quote unquote not good enough, even through all of these other scenarios. So I think that's the dream I'm chasing is to help others in a variety of capacities, whether virtually or in a classroom or through, I don't know, a conversation, is to figure out how to help others feel more confident about what they bring to the world. Because I think we all have so much to offer. We often think about experience as being like, oh, I've never done this before. Therefore, I'm not worthy or I'm not good enough to, I don't know, do this type of art or make this type of typeface or whatever it is. But experience is just one sliver of the pie. And if you imagine the pie or the circle as your whole self, all of those other pieces of the pie are made up of life experiences, right? So not just necessarily experience with that specific craft or that mode of creativity, but all life experiences and education and um, uh, there's so many things. So I think it's just a matter of helping others see in themselves the value they bring into this world, irrespective of the work that they produce. And it's just that uncoupling of work and worth that our school and traditional education system so effectively puts in our head that the work that we produce is a direct reflection of our worth in this world. If you are an A, you are A student, you are better than a C student. If you are, and that really kind of that weighs on people, especially those who put out creative work that is so personal and deeply connected to their identities. So all I'm saying here is that I think that's the dream I'm chasing is how do I continue to help others see the value in themselves that really and truly I see in them.
Mm. Last few here. What inspires you?
Lots of things. Conversations with others, reading and books, listening to like-minded and others who are not like-minded than me talk about important conversations. I learned so much from everyone I encounter, and I love the fact that people I interact with day to day are so much different than me in so many ways. Because I feel like we hopefully inspire each other to learn and to grow and to figure out, oh yeah, okay, I don't have it all figured out, and I never want to have it all figured out because maybe that means that's the end. I think it's a constant process of growing. So that's what inspires me. Everything. I don't think that's a good answer, but everything.
Awesome. And 19, any advice you'd like to share?
Yeah, not to take it all so seriously. And maybe that loops back around, coming full circle to the concept of play. But there are there are times and places to take things seriously. Absolutely. I mean, I I don't want a surgeon who is operating on myself or a loved one to walk in and not take something seriously. But I think there's also the opportunity to be really serious about doing a good job while also making the process less serious. So there's that kind of differentiation or that balance to find. So I think it's just let's not take it all so seriously because in a lot of cases something we feel like is a lot of pressure or is super high stakes feels like that in the moment, but if we zoom out and look at the big picture, we often are putting a lot of pressure on ourselves unnecessarily. And I think alleviating some of that pressure and taking and not being so serious necessarily, and approaching it our work in a more lighthearted way allows for a better, more creative and exciting result.
Nice. And finally, number 20, how can our listeners keep tabs on you? What's our call to action today?
Yeah. Well, I love meeting new people, and I have a podcast as well called Talk Paper Scissors that I'll plug right there. And so you can find me online on Instagram at Talk Paper Scissors. Also on Substack. On Substack, it's Diana Varma substack.com where I'm doing this kind of experimental writing project that is leaning into creative confidence as well. So it's you can follow along there. It will always be free. And yeah, those are two of the best places to find me. And also talkpaperscissors.info is my website.
Great. Well, thanks so much for joining today. You know, you're super inspiring and but able to have humor in it. And I love that so much. So thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you, Thomas. I sincerely appreciate you having me.